Hey, everybody. It's the off night. Tonight we ain't got shows, so we all gather together here. For the last 2 years, it's been online. I think it's like show number 90, I believe. So come join us. I don't have the link up there. Hold on. There's the link to join us. There's the link to comment. So what I'm saying is, if you want to comment, but you don't want to go on live, you can do that if you just where you watch your YouTube videos. Right there. If you come here to this one right here, have a camera and a microphone because you'll be on the live stream with us. The off night is here every Monday night at 8 o'clock. I think it's been every Monday night for 8 o'clock for at least a year, maybe a little more than that. It used to be 7 o'clock, but we do 8 o'clock. That again may move. We'll see. Whoever wants to join us would be great. We don't have anybody with us now, so it might be a shortened version because when I have to talk to myself and by myself, I don't really interest myself that much. So if you'd like to join us, again, hit that StreamYard link and join us. Or contact me through my Facebook direct message or Facebook page. We're on YouTube, the Mark Sweetman YouTube channel. We're on Facebook on the Detroit Comedians and Comedy Fans Facebook group and Facebook page, both of those. We're on the Mark Sweetman Comedian Storyteller Facebook page, and we're on the Unclub, which has started up again. I was hoping that Tim Henning will be here tonight. He's running for a couple of weeks. I haven't been able to go. We had COVID in the house here last week. Maybe talk about a little bit about that coming up. Today, all the tests were negative. So doesn't mean we're over it, but, we don't have any people with a positive test today, so that's good. I guess Andy, our normal announcer, who's been out, those of you that follow the show regularly, Andy usually makes the big announcement, introduces me, and then plays our sidekick. He's also our roving reporter and goes out on the streets occasionally and finds guests for us. He is directing a play in Washtenaw County and hasn't been available for Monday nights, but he called me today and said he sent me some video clips. I can't find them. So I don't know if he meant he Dropboxed them, in which case I don't have the address for that. And my computer went out about a month and a half ago, and I had to do everything back to factory settings, so I don't think I reinstalled Dropbox. So, or if he texted them to me, I didn't get them. Email, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is on that, but so maybe next week we can use those if I can find them. Let's see, who else do we hear from? We haven't heard from. It's been a couple of weeks since we heard from Sam Greenfield. It's always fun to hear from him. He provides a little New York, Washington, D.C. perspective, and he's a great man for any topic. And Jason Grant, we haven't seen in a while. I think the last time we talked to him, he was really quite determined he was going to get back out on the, at least on the open mic circuit, to see if he could get things going on as far as that goes. We all encouraged him, as you recall. And so we hope he reports in. That'll be great if he does. But, I see we do have a guest tuning in. Let's bring him on. I'll quickly introduce him by saying we partnered together a few years ago for something called the Unclub, which to me, didn't do anything for my career, but oh my God, did I love doing it. It was I didn't see nothing from my career. I mean, we spawned about 3 really great acts that are now on the national scene, but it was this was the guy that held it all together. How about let's warmly welcome as much audience as we have here, which is basically my dog. Here's Tim Henning. Welcome, Tim Henning, to the show. Hey, Tim, how's it going?
Well, yeah, I was audience for about 20 seconds there.
There you go. So now I do.
What's going on here? All right.
Since you announced you're bringing the Unclub back, I have been putting a link to this broadcast to the Unclub page, not the group, but the page. And so I'd like to get a little update. I know you've done a couple weeks so far. How's it going?
Yeah, well, it's going pretty good. We've had quite a few comics. And last night we actually had a few civilians show up, So, yeah,
people to see the show, huh? Wow.
Yeah, well, history of Unclub is that some nights we would have a packed house, but it would be like 95% comedians, which is kind of the thing, That's kind of part of it for the comics. They get to socialize and et cetera, But there were several people that came specifically to see it.
Good.
Last night, so that's good.
That is good. Any old guys from the old crew been coming back?
Well, of course, Corm has been emceeing it, Corm Sheik, and then Eric Laux was there last week.
Oh, good. He's funny.
And John Campbell was there both times, last night and last week.
Excellent.
And who else? I'm sure there's somebody else that I'm missing, but lots of new people that I didn't know. Oh, Geneva Henderson.
Oh, I remember.
She didn't remember me, but since I friend everybody on Facebook that shows up, I'm able to keep track of them, even if they don't know that I'm, lurking in the shadows watching. So
well, that's good.
Yeah, and she brought a friend of hers. She brought a friend of hers named Melvin Jackson.
I've heard of him, but I haven't seen him yet.
Very entertaining. He's from New Jersey.
No, good.
More of a storyteller, I think, but he has a really engaging style.
Well, you know what I like about the Unclub is any style is accepted and encouraged. So,
yeah, even Nathan Corliss showed up last week. I don't know if you remember Nathan.
I remember Nathan. Yeah,
kind of more of an actor than a comic, but he decided to give it a whirl again. So that was fun.
Good. Yeah, good.
Last night we had Kevin Rodriguez. He's a guy I didn't know who's really good.
Now is he the actor that does improv at Planet Ant? Is that the guy I'm thinking of? We had a Rodriguez guy the first iteration of the Unclub when we were at the Mix, and he showed up for 2 weeks and then we never saw him again. But I remember he would always put links on his site whenever we put something out there. So,
well, it's possible. I didn't remember him, but I'm trying.
Well, Rodriguez is a pretty common name, so I mean, it's
and
I got to admit, I don't really remember him that well.
Yeah, and I'm trying to look up the pictures so I can remember who was there, but I can't find him now. I can't find anything when I really want it on Facebook.
Well, my daughter, who's tested, my kids who tested positive last week tested negative today, so we might have gotten by this cloud. So,
oh, great!
So I might be able to get out. I might be able to get out there. If we're supposed to do 5 days after, just sit tight 5 days after a negative test. So,
yeah,
that'll be Friday. So that would put me in for next weekend. So,
yeah, they who was the other? Oh, Danielle Bensley. She came with Kevin, I think.
Okay.
And somebody named Kat. I can't remember her last name. I haven't friended her yet, or she hasn't responded. Her name was Kat. She's a little older. I don't think she's our age, but.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. She's been on our show. She's been on the podcast here.
There you go.
Kat Medlock.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. She was great. And
she's been around. She just didn't do. She was around when our first iteration of the Unclub. She just never made it out to Ipsy. So.
Okay. What do you mean? Never made it to Ipsy.
The first iteration of the Unclub,
which was at Ipsy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she didn't.
But she didn't make
I'm
it.
not following.
I'm saying she was around back.
Oh, I got you. She was around. Yeah,
She was
gotcha.
around in the scene back then,
Yeah,
but she never made it out to Ipsy
yeah,
before we were
gotcha.
down.
And
So,
Josh Parks was there.
oh,
As some people might remember him as Rango Dark Cheddar.
yes.
And I gave him yeah. At one point I said, Josh Parks is a great name for a comedian.
It is a great name.
Why do you need Rango Dark Cheddar? So he I don't know if it was just because of what I said, but he changed it to back to Josh Parks. Good. And then very soon after that, somebody stole Rango Dark Cheddar. It's like there's somebody else now going around or at that time was going around as Rango Dark Cheddar. It's like, okay, if you're not going to use it, I'll steal it.
That's funny. Who would do that? Who would? I mean, it just. Yeah, I guess.
I don't know.
That's
Rango Dark Cheddar. It's a cool name.
It is a cool name. But Josh Parks is something that everybody wants to put. That's a marquee name. You know what I mean? It fits well.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I mean? Your name gets bigger because you've only got so few letters that they can put the larger font up on the marquee. So
yeah, Rango Dark Cheddar is a little bit longer.
Rango Dark Cheddar looks like and special guest. That.
Right, you're like, oh, performance art? Is that what are we doing? Is it a clown or and Josh is just funny anyway. So he doesn't really need an exotic name. And Josh Parks is just fine. Joe the animal didn't make it last night, but he was there the first night.
No, good. What is what is the N Club without Joe the animal? Really?
Exactly. Without Joe down there occasionally throwing in solicited or unsolicited comments and critique.
Oh God!
No, he was good. Joe was. He's been talking to somebody out in L.A. apparently.
Who, Joe?
Yeah, Joe. He's been FaceTiming or Zooming or whatever with somebody that I think he said he made the connection originally with Chili.
Oh, okay.
There's another guy who used to write for the Tonight Show, and Joe's been communicating with him and has been working on it. So he's actually believe he's improved. I think
good.
He had a good set.
Well, that's good.
And the other thing is that at the MTL house, of course, they have nice beer and stuff, and they're good enough to offer.
You didn't like the PBR and the box wine that we had at the.
Oh, I love that. Was great. I wish I could have kept doing that, but that was. At a certain point, the powers that be said, probably not a great idea, So, considering we didn't have a liquor license and or anything like that. So, but MCL House, they give out. They've allowed us to give the comics each 2 drinks. So,
wow,
which is a heck of a lot better than like having to bring people or whatever. So
that's like getting paid.
Sort of, yeah. And Ted, the owner, Ted Badrow, who's one of the owners and probably the main owner presence there, and the brewmeister,
right?
He performed.
Excellent.
And, they love him. They didn't know who he was at first.
Oh, good.
Because he shows up and he's got workman's coveralls that he wears because he's working.
Right?
He's making beer and carting kegs around and stuff. So Corum didn't know who he was. All he knew is I said, well, the owner wants a slot. And she's like, oh, well, we'll see what that is, And I figured it'd just be like some guy goofing off or whatever. And then Ted gets up and belts one out. And everyone's like, oh, man, he can sing. So, and he did it again last night. It was great.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I'm hoping I can get there next weekend, but I'm not going to make any promises right now.
Okay, well, let me know what to do about the list because Corum made a list the last 2 weeks of comics.
Well, if he can't, I'll definitely. If he can't come, I'll definitely show up. So, but if you got,
well, I think he can, but I think he can. But
if he wants to do a regular set, I guess. Well, let me find out. Let me find out about my health because that's gonna be number one for me. So
right.
I've gotten all the stage time I need. I don't do stuff for stage time anymore. So
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Well, it's up to you. It'd be nice to have you there. And
yeah,
it's
don't need to prove myself. So I don't feel like I'm
yeah.
losing out on anything. But yeah,
Oh,
I miss
gotcha.
it.
Right.
I miss it a lot though. It was
Oh, it is nice because then afterwards there's still time. Everybody's sitting around at the tables and
you know what I loved about what I
schmoozing.
loved about it, and it's great because comedy is mostly irony. I think in our day and age, it's mostly irony anyway. Is that we called it the Unclub, but it's the clubbiest
Yeah, yeah,
meeting place. You don't get the everywhere else. Nobody's clubby like that, So I kind of
yeah.
like the clubbiness of the Unclub. So
Kind of makes it an even better name, because
yes,
I don't
yeah,
know.
it does. It
I
does.
don't know what you call that. It's like you said, the irony, whatever it is. It's sort of doing the anti whatever it. You're not what you're saying you are. I guess that's the
Exactly.
that's
It's like when they talk about comedy clubs. Like, well, it's not a comedy club. It's a bar. It's a business. It's
right.
comedy is the entertainment they're using. One, there's no club. The membership is the $15 you pay to get in, and the 2-drink minimum. That's
Yeah.
about as clubby as they get. And
Other thing that's fun too is the Ipsy Ale House is kind of has that atmosphere anyway. The people that come there is like regular people it's kind of pubby.
right,
And you got your regular crowd that comes for trivia all the time. They even have there's a room off the side in the front where people meet regularly just to play games, like board games or whatever, that they do.
right.
And yeah, I don't know what all they play. I think they play Go or something like that. Anyway, but it's got that feel to it. So it's that kind of a perfect sort of place for Unclub.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to checking it out.
Yeah, one of these days I got a friend of mine that showed up with Nathan Corliss. He's like, "Well, I thought you were going to get up." I was like, "Well, I like being here. I like hanging out with the comics, but I don't think I'm, maybe one of these days." But
Uh,
it's hard, when you do theater, I think it's a common thing with theater people. I've had this conversation. Like we're great with like having lines, you memorize lines, you got the blocking, It's all, but we're just as afraid as anybody else of public speaking.
right.
We're just as it terrorizes us just as much as anybody. So,
Well, Mark Ridley,
uh-huh.
the famous Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, before he got that location at 4th Street in Troy and Royal Oak, which is now 34 years, whatever, he had about 7 or 8 locations, and in each of those places, he was the MC. Because a lot of times he was filling in a half hour before the headliner went up because times were slim, thin pickings were thin back, in the growing days, and a lot of people don't realize that he was a comedian at one time. Same with Joey Allison, the guy who started Joey's Comedy Club.
Mm-hmm.
He was a comedian. And Leo DeFore, Leo's Comedy Corner over in Windsor, he was a comedian. And so all these places that were started by comedians, the only one that wasn't a comedian, and Roger Feeney in Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase, he wasn't a comedian, but the guy who started the club was his brother-in-law, Kirkland Teeple.
Oh yeah, I remember when he was there.
and he was a comedian. So really, a lot of these places that started back in the 80s were started by comics that were basically headliners that were trying to give each other work. All right, I'll book you in my room in Royal Oak. You book me in your room in Ann Arbor. That type of thing. So,
yeah. Well,
for a long time,
I feel like I can sort of sub in as MC, but don't expect me to be funny. I might crack a couple of things and pause and wait and see if anybody bites. But in general, I'll just be there to like shuffle in the next comic, right?
Right. Well, you know what? A lot of times, that's really all you want.
Yeah.
When I was an MC out at the Improv out in Hollywood, that was the highest paid spot on the show. It wasn't the closer, the headliner. It was a
Right.
showcase show, and so everybody got different amounts of time, and it usually was called out by whoever was there to see him. Jim McCauley from The Tonight Show was there a lot. Robert Morton from Letterman was there a lot. And what they would do is they would be watching comics, and so they'd want to see, all right, I want to see 12 minutes from him. Oh, I only want to see 6 minutes from him. That type of thing. So a lot of times they would make the request on what they wanted to see. The MC's job was to basically pick up the show if it fell down. Because every once in a while you throw, all right, here's a new kid, give him his first, let's give him a 5-minute spot because he's new, and he goes up there and eats it for 5 minutes. The MC's job was he had 3 minutes to get the crowd back before he brought up the next guy. So
I remember going to back in the 70s. I was in New York when I first went to college, and then ended up dropping out, but had some fun while I was there, and went to Catch a Rising Star. And I remember going. They actually had a comedy night at, I think it was a place called Folk City.
Right.
Which was basically what you think it is, folk music. But they would sometimes have comedian nights, and I remember going there one night, and I don't remember who. I wish I remembered who it was, because I wouldn't be surprised if the guy became famous later. But as this comedian gets up, and the lady that was emceeing, I think she was like the owner of the place, and she's like, that's kind of like sort of cranky. You expect her to have cigarettes rolled up in her blouse or whatever,
Right.
And the guy goes on, and he just basically started doing like some sort of, I suppose, Richard Pryor-esque kind of stuff when when Richard Pryor started getting, dirty, right?
Uh-huh.
And he got about a minute and a half in, and she just walked up and just pushed him aside, and she's like, "Yeah, none of that in here. We're not going to have any of that shit." It's like, just go back. Yeah, no, all right. Okay, nice, but none of that. That was funny. I once went to, when I was at Catch a Rising Star one time, I actually got heckled by Richard Belzer. He heckled me because I got up. He was doing a set, and I'd had a couple of drinks, and I had to go.
Right.
So I got up and I kind of excused my, because the tables there were packed really tight in order to get enough people in there, because it wasn't a big space. And so there's like these long tables, and everybody sat at like common tables, right, all together. And you had to get up and like squeeze your way out. And as I'm walking across the head towards the bathroom, he just stopped and looked at me. He's like, yeah, thanks a lot. Go to the bathroom in the middle of my set, just like kind of harangued me all the way to the bathroom, which I took as a point of pride. I was like, it's a fond memory, Got heckled by Richard Belzer.
Well, Catch a Rising Star, that's where I did my Letterman audition. Way back in 1989. It was, I think it was Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day, 1989. I didn't get to spend it with Susan because I was in New York auditioning for Letterman. That was a good time.
That was a great place. We'd go down there. I was a freshman in college, and we'd go down there. I remember going down there, and I don't remember how we got there, but then we walked back to college, which was up around like 114th.
Which college?
I went to Columbia. And so it's like 114th and Broadway, right?
Yeah.
And you know where Catch the Rising Star was.
You're going all the way across the park practically.
We did.
Yeah.
I mean, at like 3 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever, we're walking down that road that goes across Central Park.
Right.
And we're the only ones out. And we're a bunch of like 18-year-old college kids. And we're like, what was that? What was that?
Just pretend you're filming another episode of episode of Hair. That's where Hair was filmed in that park. Remember?
Oh, was it? Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah. Did you ever see the musical Hair? That was like
I think I have, but it's been so long
that was almost all Central Park.
Yeah, I remember I remember the stories about the SC. Was it Martin Short and a bunch of other people were in a big production of it in Canada. Like a lot of them,
I believe it.
SCT. There's a whole bunch of these famous people from SCTV and SNL were in this production in Canada before they all hit it. I think even Gilda Radner was part of it. I'm not sure, but yeah, Hair. It's one of those things that I remember when there was a Hair, Godspell, all that stuff. Although Hair had like nudity, so that was cool, right? You know, somebody actually when I thought about going to see that, I thought I don't want to see that. People that do musicals are not necessarily your best looking bodies. They might be or they might not be. So in any case, I just couldn't think of anything more sort of like.
And that was, that was in the if you were nude and you had body hair, everybody was going to see it era. So.
No, right, yeah. But I remember there was a play called, I think it was Wait Until Dark. I think is that the one? Or there's not that. No, it's not that one. There was another play I knew. I had a friend of mine that had to be. He had to expose his butt in the play. I just can't imagine doing that. Although I have to say, when I was out in LA this last time, when I was there, like 2002, 2006, and somebody wanted to audition for a butt double. I can't remember who it was for, and I'm like, they needed a butt double, and it was somebody my build, a little more heavy set, right?
Yeah.
So I actually went in and I auditioned.
Bring in the stunt.
Bring in the stunt. It was like going to the doctor's office. And, okay, go into the next room, and you go in the next room. And okay, now face the wall. All right, now drop trowel. Okay. It's like, guys, there's a pause while he's like looking at my butt, and he's like, okay, thank you. We'll be getting in touch with you, whatever.
Yeah. It's like call in the stunt butt.
I didn't know what reaction I wanted. What the silence was that good, or would have been nicer if I'd heard a oh.
But what you don't want is one person turning to another one, putting a paper up in front of their face so that you can't see them, and them going.
So that would have been good, probably, because I think it might have been for like Jack Black or something. I don't know.
Oh well, there you go.
One time, somebody gave me a call from a casting agency, and they said, "What's the guy's name that was Freddy Krueger? Bob Englund? Is it Bob?
Yeah.
Bob Englund? Anyway, they say he's directing a movie." And the girl that called from the casting, she had a very sweet voice. She's like, "Excuse me, is this Tim Henning?" "Yes." "Well, we just wondered if you would be interested in doing a shot per day on Bob Englund movie, and we just need you to be sitting on the toilet, like you're taking a dump." And just sitting on the toilet, and it's just that, just for the day. You'll get a SAG voucher for it and everything. We'll pay you $300. And I didn't actually take it was a voicemail call, right? So when I listened to it, I called her back up, and I said, "Hi, is this is Tim Henning? And you called me about the sitting on the toilet." She says, I said, "Oh, could you tell me what that was again?" She says, "Yes, we're doing a Robert Englund movie, and we'd like you to, be naked on the toilet like you're taking a dump." And I just said, I'm really sorry. I'm really not going to do it. I just wanted to hear you say that. I just wanted to hear you, because she was so sweet, Then I kind of felt bad about it later. I thought, poor girl.
My question for a role like that would be: now, is this going to be a Last Tango in Paris?
Pass the butter.
Naked on the toilet, or is this going to be a Jurassic Park naked on the toilet?
What was Jurassic Park thing? Was it like?
That was where Wayne Knight gets the raptor, eats Wayne Knight, while he's on the toilet.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's actually an outhouse, I think, or like a
Right. Or there's the one where was it Lethal Weapon with Mel Gibson where he gets blown up on the toilet?
Yes. Yeah. Is it a Lethal Weapon toilet scene, or is it?
Yeah.
The one you want is
when I was a little kid. When I was a little kid, we had we still had an outhouse,
We still have them
And
now
we
if you go camping.
and we well, but this was where we actually lived,
Oh, okay. Yeah, but
We-
you're from Ohio, so
yeah, well, but that was still a little unusual even for then. But that
yeah.
we were out in the country, sort of. We were a little tiny town, and that was an actual thing. Right? During the summer, especially, you had to go check and make sure there weren't any snakes in there.
Thanks.
Yeah, that was. I still remember lining up at the front door during the winter and running out to the outhouse. Like all of us boys were all like 6, 7, 8, or whatever, 10 years older, and all in our BVDs standing at the front door, and it's like 10 degrees outside, and they open the door. Okay, first one, run! They'd run out. We'd run out to the outhouse, do our business, come running back in. Okay, next, go running out there.
See, now those are the towns where indoor plumbing was a bigger deal than color television. Where I came from, they had. I was the third generation of indoor plumbing in my family, so for me, the big deal was I still remember it when my dad brought home. I think I was 8 or 9. My dad brought home our first color TV. Oh man!
Well, you were the rich people.
We were well. My dad sold them, so all he had to
well.
As soon as he sold
had a color.
As soon as he sold his 100th color TV, his boss gave him one. So,
yeah, all the time I was growing up, we never had a color TV. And then after I moved out, then my mom and dad got like a portable color TV, and that was like the first one that they had.
No. Well, I always tell my kids, especially the younger ones, because there's so much. It's so funny because my older kids now are in their 30s, and they're like, they treat my teenagers like they're their kids. Like, you kids, you got it so goddamn easy. But I always tell them, when we were a kid, our parents made us hold the antenna in whatever position.
Yeah, that was me.
Whatever position. And so, in other words, they'd have you hold it. All right, take a step that way. All right, stay right there. And so you couldn't even see the television. Your charge was to hold that antenna so that the parents could watch the television set. So.
Well, we didn't have a regular. We had basically. We had rabbit ears at one point, but if we didn't have those, then we had like aluminum foil on a hanger.
Oh, yep, I remember that. Now, did you have a pair of pliers that was used for the channel changer?
Yeah, when the dial would fall off a break and you didn't have it anymore, and you had to use the pliers to turn it. Yeah, I was the antenna and the remote control.
And we did it gladly because we got to stay up past bedtime in order to do that.
Yeah, well, we had our way of watching TV after bedtime. Was we had these old registers in the floor, right? Because the whole house was, the heat. There was no duct. There was no ducts, so you had like a register where you could see all the way through down to the room below. And it happened that our bedroom was above the living room, the one that I was in with maybe a brother or something. And so late at night, if we had to go to bed, we could still just see, through the register, the television. So, and we had to be real quiet because if something happened like on Ed Sullivan or something like that, and we go start to laugh. What's going on up there?
Have you ever been? I've never been in my old house, but I lived in a cookie cutter neighborhood. In other words, there were probably 120 houses on the 5 streets that were in my neighborhood, and I don't think there was one difference between any of them. You know what I mean?
Oh no, we were in an old neighborhood. Our house, was probably built sometime in the 1800s.
My parents bought our house in 1958 for like $9,800 or something like that.
Oh yeah, well,
and these were like little cookie. And I'll go now. I haven't been back in the house I grew up in, but it doesn't matter if I go. I've been in houses in the same neighborhood where people in the families still own it. Like the grandchildren are living there now. Mm-hmm. And I've been in, and I just cannot believe how small the house is. As you get older, it's like when I went. My mom taught at the grade school I went to, and I went back one time as an adult. And I go, "Oh, these rooms are so small. How did we ever? How did you ever squeeze 35 kids into these classrooms?"
Well, yeah. Well, my elementary school got torn down, and also my junior high, they're both gone.
Oh, my wife, every one of her schools is gone except for Wayne State University, but her grade school or middle school or high school, gone, all of them.
Yeah. And at the house that we lived in, I mean, we had, we had like 3 bedrooms upstairs and an attic that was like a little room. We used it like a clubhouse. And then on the main floor, there was living room, dining room, kitchen, and we had a basement, like a full basement.
Yeah.
And I think it was $35 a month.
Wow. All the best attic, and now in my family, all the best attics were in homes built before 1925.
Yeah.
They had some awesome, and sometimes they would actually have like a secret passageway down from the attic that, there was no stairwell.
Well, our attic was on the second floor. It was just a door off the hallway in the second floor, and that was the attic. So we were actually able to put like little beds in there and like a little desk, and it was really, literally like a clubhouse, So it was a cool old house,
Yeah,
we had a doorbell. How old this house was? We had a doorbell that was mechanical. I don't know if you've ever seen one. It's like a round disc kind of thing.
Yes.
And you turn it.
And
it just makes it,
Yep.
It makes it mechanical. It's like got something that it's clicking against in there, and that's the doorbell.
I had 2 favorite old houses. I had Aunt Cecilia and Uncle Bob lived in Manchester. Mm-hmm. And they had a huge house. And there were 3 stories. And there were stairways and passageways. We call them secret passageways only because you could go up or down. 2 people could not pass each other on these stairways. Mm-hmm. That's how narrow they were. And of course,
did it have a back staircase?
Yeah.
I had friends that had one like that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is cool. And that was, I mean, there were just so many places to hide. And they had a great backyard, and they had like, somebody in the family must have been a welder because they welded
my dad was a welder.
Anyway, we had a roller coaster track in the backyard, which I thought was very cool because you would go off the back porch on this rail. It was a roller coaster. It was just they made tube rails, and then they had like wheels that wrapped around, almost like the roller coasters do today. But and then we'd whip around on that. That was my favorite. My second favorite was my Uncle Sal and Aunt Cornelia back in Brockton, Massachusetts. She owned a beauty salon, and the beauty salon was on the street, and then you'd go back. And there'd be like a kitchen, and then you'd go above the kitchen and the salon, and that would be where the living room and one of the master bedrooms was. You go a floor above that. Now it was almost 4 floors. I think the 3rd floor was half attic, half living area, but they went all the way up to the 3rd floor to watch television because
I had an Uncle Bob, and he was a hairstylist. They had 2 shops in Toledo, he and his wife, Aunt Evelyn. Yeah. In fact, when he retired, like up until he was 90, when he passed away, his wife had passed away a few years before. He didn't have his shops anymore, but he had turned his entire basement into a hair salon. So if you went down there, there was still the old-fashioned hair dryers and the sinks and everything, just like a shop out of like the 60s.
Right.
He had it all in his basement now because he still took customers. Yeah. And he kept going right up until he was 90 years old doing it.
I had 1, 2, 3. I had 3 uncles and an aunt, all on my mom's Italian side of the family that were hair barbers or hairdressers. So it was that was sort of the family business. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But they had some great houses, man. Excellent houses.
The old days. I remember when we used to go visit my aunt Geraldine and my uncle Marvin. He was a car salesman in Bowling Green, and they lived in Bowling Green, and they had an old house, and that was fun. And back in those days, nobody called ahead of time. We would show up and open the side door and say, "We're here.
We're here.
Anybody home?" Yeah, come on in. And then they moved out like just outside the city limits of Bowling Green. It's probably inside the limits now, but at the time, and it was like a subdivision with ranch style houses. And I always thought that was the coolest house because everything was on one floor, like a whole bunch of rooms all on one floor. and
I could see if you came from the city out to the country, I could see how that would be an attraction.
it was cool. They're the ones they lived the life. He was like,
Yeah.
he had always had the nice suits, and he always had all the dirty jokes to tell the nieces, the nephews, So
Right.
he was the cool guy. Bowling Green.
When I was a freshman at Wayne State, I lived with a guy, Jim Lumley. He was an attorney and was a public defender for the 36th District Court.
Mm-hmm.
And he owned a boat that he docked right on the canal next to Mayor Coleman Young's Manoogian mansion.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to go out on that a lot, but it was great because as soon as the boat docked, in other words, he took it out in the winter because the ice would kill the boat. It wasn't that big of a boat, As soon as he got the boat in the water, we never saw him again. So we had the house to we had a house near Highland Park. We had the house to ourselves the rest of the time. And he rented to about 5 Wayne State students. And of course, 5, we never saw each other. That house was so big that he lived in. It was, it was on the north end, kind of near Boston, Edison, a little bit farther north of that.
Mm-hmm.
But that was fun.
Yeah, I remember visiting people when I was at Columbia. While I was there, then years later, when I went back again, you meet different people. I come from one background, but of course at Columbia, you meet a lot of people that are way more privileged. They got huge houses. One guy was a friend of mine. His dad was big in I think Connecticut state politics and had actually run for governor or something, and lived right next door to the governor's mansion. So you go to those houses and you're like, holy crap! And they don't think it's anything. Oh yeah, I don't have any. We're not rich. We're not. We're just like everybody else who has like 15 rooms and 6 bathrooms and an estate. And it's like, okay, all right.
Right. If you don't have to feed your own horses, if you can hire somebody else to do it, you're rich. So.
Yeah, I don't think they had any servants, but they did. They definitely had. You go in the living room and what's those dishes and stuff that have like little lumpy things on them. It's a kind of not pottery, but there's a name for it. They're really expensive. Like just one will cost you hundreds of dollars, and they're like little balls all over the thing. Like there's a name for it. Anyway,
my mom would know. I sure don't.
You go in there in the living room, and my friend's mom, every shelf was just covered with them, and you're like, there's got to be like $20,000 worth of just like dishes in here, at least. So just a little collection, just a little thing, Yeah. One time, I knew some guys when I went back to college in the late 80s. I went back to finish at Columbia, and I met some guys in this fraternity, Psi Epsilon, which I thought they were really cool guys, because they were nerdy. They were really nerdy. Uh-huh. So I thought, I can get along with these guys because I grew up I came up in the 70s originally, where being in a frat was definitely uncool. That was, that was not the thing to do. But in the 80s, I didn't really want to join one, but I kind of hung out with these guys. And I went to one of their places down on Central Park West. And this guy lived in the same building that like Tom Brokaw lived in. Uh-huh. And who else? John McEnroe. And I think at the time, John McEnroe and was it Tatum O'Neal?
Yep.
I think we're going together. We're living together.
Yep. And they might have even been married at one time. I can't remember.
They were on this guy and I think it was his grandparents lived in the building. So we went up to that floor, on the same floor as John McEnroe. Of course, there's no like.
Are you talking like around between like 75, 80th Street, that kind of west side?
Yeah, Central Park West, right about in the 70s, low
70s. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. And so we go up there, and of course it's one of these buildings. They got money when you have basically your own private elevator. You get on the elevator, and it stops, and there's this little entryway, and there's just one door, which is the apartment you're going to, because everybody else has their own whatever. So we went up there, and the weird thing was that it was a huge place, They definitely had money because you got to have one of those places. But everything was old. Everything was like worn. The floors, like the boards were like, they weren't nice. It's like they had all this stuff, but they didn't really bother. They didn't care. They didn't care about that stuff. It was old. That was what was cool about it. But what we did is they have all these apartments or condos, wherever they have these balconies, right? There's a balcony that goes all the way around the building.
Yeah.
So we went out on their balcony, and you could climb from one balcony to the next balcony.
Sure.
Right. So we did that. We went all the way around the building and basically stood in just like John McEnroe and Tatum O'Neal's apartment. We're like, are they in there? Like somebody had caught us, we'd have been in really deep trouble. But I don't think there was anybody there. I don't think they even had hardly any furniture there. It looked like they weren't really living there at the time. But he's like, you got to see this. It's John McEnroe's apartment. So we did. So I like about big cities like New York and LA is you can often just, especially when you're younger, there's lots of adventures to get into,
Yeah.
Sometimes good, sometimes bad.
When I think of, but New York and LA are so different. New York is so compact and everything's
right.
Jammed in together. And LA
New York,
is so
you can always jump on a train and go somewhere,
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, LA's getting like that.
Well, they have subways.
When's the last time you were in LA? Because it's
well, about maybe 3 years ago, 2018.
Yeah, my two boys live. Boys, they're men. They're in their 30s now, but they both live in North Hollywood. And my oldest boy got rid of his car. He doesn't even use a car anymore.
Right, because I lived in Van Nuys like 15 years ago, and you could get on the train there.
Right,
go to downtown LA, and then in fact, I'd get to the airport sometimes. I'd take the train downtown LA and then go south towards Long Beach and then west towards the airport. And I think now you don't even have to do that. You can cut across Hollywood, I think.
Have you seen that light rail they're putting into LAX?
No, I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, right on Century Boulevard. It's way up. It's going to go right down the. It's basically going to be like terminal stops for the thing.
Right. Right. Well, the subway. Remember, when you take the subway from Van Nuys, it's not sub, it's above, and then it goes down.
Right.
And in Burbank, it's underground.
Right.
And the subway station there, I mean, it's just like a subway station in any like New York or whatever, except that it's probably newer. It's a nice big station, and there weren't as many people at that time. I think it's probably used more now, but at the time it was still, I don't know about how new it was, but it wasn't like packed like you would have in New York.
Right. Well, when we lived out there, they had just opened up the blue line. I think it's the A line now. I think they call it the A line. They changed the colors to letters. Yeah. When we lived out there, they started with that. And
but the thing that's great about LA is that it's a lot. Well, there's subway and train and stuff now, but you have to use your car a lot. But any day that you're not doing anything, you could go to the beach.
That's true. That is true.
Just head for the beach, and especially during a week, a work weekday, you go there at like 3 or 4 o'clock, maybe just enough so you can feed the meter to last you until the meters aren't in effect anymore.
Aren't enforced anymore. Yeah.
All right, and then there's nobody out there, during the week. So
I went out there I took my daughters out there this summer, and they stayed at the youth hostel in Santa Monica.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. That actually looks pretty nice. I thought about doing it myself, but I thought, I'm too old for that.
Oh, yeah, you'd be surprised. There were some elder people there. I mean, it's not. I called it a youth hostel because it was mostly youth, but I mean, they didn't have age restrictions. But
I think they just call
it was right. It was a block from the beach. Yeah, it was Second and what's the street that the pier is on? Anyway, it was right there at Second. It was a block away, basically a block away.
You mean the north-south street?
The north-south street was Second Street. Yeah, I'm talking about the east.
Santa Monica is where the pier is.
Oh, Santa Monica Boulevard. That's it. Santa Monica, Second and Santa Monica Boulevard. Yeah. So they had a great location. They paid
I know exactly where it is. I've seen it. A friend of mine was staying there once.
That's pretty. That's where they stayed, and I stayed with my brothers out in Hollywood, up North Hollywood.
Yeah, I do miss that. I do miss that walking up and down the beach from like Santa Monica down to Venice Beach and back.
Venice.
It's just like there's just a slice of life through there. That's I don't know where else you see that. And Harry, what's his name? Harry Perry, the guy with the turban that roller skates up and down and plays the electric guitar. He's been there since like the 60s.
Yeah, and why shouldn't he? Why shouldn't he?
Yeah. One time I went to take his picture, and he's like, I charge $10 for that. It's like, okay, I guess I get it. That's what he's doing. He's making money.
Well, every week, Tim, we let my wife set the agenda. She writes a poem of current events. Uh-huh. So I want to get this in so that she didn't waste her day today. So here's the off-night poem for January 31st by Susan Salisbury Sweetman. It's news-based, too, so it's not always good news. 2019 Miss USA jumped, news reports tell. Ruled suicide, but what would Colombo smell? Georgia prosecutor investigating Trump contacts FBI. He's afraid of Trump and his Texas rally lie. Scholarships from Oakland University, a big mistake. 5,000 students lose them. Michigan is being fake. Central Michigan did that to 58 students too, blaming human error for the scholarship hullabaloo. New Hampshire to sell COVID tests at liquor stores. If a COVID test you're seeking, where would you get yours? A shot and a swab sounds pretty good to me. As long as you're getting nose raped, why not enjoy whiskey?
Central is actually making good on those.
Oh, well, they only had 58.
Right, and that's what Oakland is saying. It's like, yeah, they got 58. We had 5,000. We're going to do what we got to do,
Yeah. Well, I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, I think if kids can make the grades, they should go to school for free. We have enough colleges.
Right.
They should find a school for somebody,
Right. I don't know that I'm not sure. Well, they obviously do make money from tuition, but depending on the school, I know like at Columbia, yes, they make money from tuition, but their endowment is outrageous.
It's like,
it passed $1 billion a long time
Harvard,
ago.
I know all those Ivy League schools.
Also, Columbia is like the second biggest landowner in Manhattan.
Really?
Second to the Catholic Church.
Oh, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But,
or at least they were.
Princeton. Who is it? Was it Princeton? No, Princeton. This endowment got so large, they said, we just really don't have to worry about collecting tuition anymore. So anybody that wants to,
really,
we're going to base all of our
retirement plan.
I know their endowment got so large, and then Harvard and Yale bitch because we got to compete with that.
Oh yeah.
How are we gonna get these? And what they said is, look, Princeton, of course, said you guys make so much money off of legacies, because
what's Harvard and Yale got to complain about? I'm sure they have as much money also.
Exactly. Well, all the Ivy League schools do, and Michigan's endowment is huge now. Michigan's got a huge Michigan.
Well, why Columbia has such. Well, one of the reasons why they have such a huge endowment is because a former president of Michigan, Sovereign, went to Columbia and spearheaded that thing back when I was back in the 80s, because he had all these big money contacts and he really put the emphasis on that, and they brought in a lot more money. So, yep.
Well, I think, and all that is for basically to, I guess, if you keep the school up, it makes your degree that much more valuable. I would think. I guess I don't know. See, I went to Wayne State, and we had a couple of things going for us. We had an English proficiency exam that everybody had to pass to get a degree, and a foreign language requirement. And I remember everybody fought that foreign language requirement. English proficiency made sense. You speak English. You'd like to know that your graduates know how to speak English, but there were a lot of people that had a hard time with the foreign. Me included. I did not get all A's in foreign languages. In fact, I tried 2 because I was so poor at foreign languages. But
yeah, well, I think, but it's a good thing to do.
But once I got my degree, I was kind of like, hell no, you're not dropping it. Like if I had to go through it, now I know that everybody that got their degree from there had to go through the same thing.
That's why they have such a hard time getting rid of hazing, because
Yeah.
and then the frats, because it's like,
Yeah.
I had to like bend over naked and like sit on a whatever and
Hey,
jump off.
Where's my chance to Where's my chance to be on this end of the paddle?
That's right. Yeah. Come on, if it's good enough for me, I can whatever. Yeah. I guess that's the progression. So,
but I guess I would think. I don't know. I think a lot about the schools because we got 11 state schools in Michigan,
do we?
And the Upper Peninsula's got 3. So they've got Lake Superior State, Northern Michigan, and Michigan Tech. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, you know what? They ought to just call that Superior University and have 3 campuses. I mean, there's got to be a lot of.
That's kind of how they do SUNY in New York. They have campuses everywhere.
Cal State is the same way. The Cal State system is all one university with different campuses. So SUNY's like that there, and I think other states do it too. But
it's been like that for a long time, I'm sure. So like when you got individual schools, now you're talking about I mean, the most political place on earth is the administration level at a university campus. I mean,
I'm guessing you're right.
Trying to get them to come together. I mean, they can barely get things together between themselves in their own departments.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm sure I'm exaggerating, but I just know that's.
After watching my kids go through 2 years of online schooling, I've come to the conclusion that since they did all their freshman and sophomore classes, and for some of them their senior year in high school, in their rooms, in their bedrooms, in front of their laptops, I'm convinced that you could probably do all those requirements at anywhere. You know what I mean? All those, right. If a professor can teach the class over the line and everybody watches it online or through a YouTube channel or whatever that is, so why can't you have the best teacher at whatever university and everybody take that guy's class?
Right.
Or that girl's class.
Because at university you kind of have that anyway in a personal level when you have to show up to a class and there's 200 students in a lecture for like a full professor or whatever.
Right, exactly.
What's the difference between that and doing it online? In fact, you've seen in movies where the professor shows up to teach and there's 200 seats and they've all got like little cameras there. Like the students don't even come; they just record it. Because
we did that. We did it.
I don't know if you're there or not.
I was a freshman and back in the 70s, and we used to do that. You'd be hung over that night, and you'd just hand your roommate that had the same class at 8:00 that you did, hand them your tape recorder. Here, record the lecture for me.
Yeah.
And then the school caught on to that, and they just recorded them anyway and put them in the labs, in the listening labs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is I don't know. It seems like school in general, and like especially university. Especially when you get to university, in high school and stuff, you actually are kind of learning certain skills or whatever. But when you get to university, unless you're doing something really specialized like engineering or something like that,
your research,
you're really just kind of learning how to learn. And a lot of it is also the social structure, being with other people, working with other people, being involved in events. How many protests can I get? How many protests can I get involved in? That was big at Columbia. So.
Well, I told it. Yeah, I bet. I told everybody. I told everybody that getting your degree wasn't about getting your degree. It was to show to an employer that you were willing to give up just about everything for 4 years to do something.
Right. Right.
To commit to a goal. So
commitment. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's something, I guess, to be said for that. Although I think what I remember about college is really not so much the specific things I learned there, but the people I met and the things that I did, the other activities. I did theater there also, and met a lot of people and did a lot of interesting things. And it just kind of broadens.
Now you would have been there during for the Strawberry Statement. Was that your time?
Strawberry Statement.
You ever heard of the Strawberry Statement? I think that was Columbia.
When was that? What was this? I guess I wasn't because it doesn't sound familiar.
It was a very funny essay by a student activist. Let me see if I can find it.
So I was there in 75 to January 76. And then I went back and finished 86 to 90.
Oh, this would have been after you were there, probably. The Strawberry Statement. It was a nonfiction book by James Simon Cunin, written when he was 19, chronicled the experiences at Columbia University during the 60s. It was basically, it was a good humored look at the student revolts of the 60s at Columbia.
Oh yeah, I knew people that were involved in those. I mean, that was before my time, the revolt.
Right.
68, 69, something like that.
Yeah.
In fact, I knew a person who was like in the administration at the time. There was one of the buildings, it's an administration building there. When I went back the second time, I was old enough to hang out with some of these older people. You know, I was 30. So I was hanging out with deans and vice presidents and whatever, you know, at the local pub. And one of them was he was like, I can't remember, vice president of some student affairs or something like that. And he said when they had the big protests at Columbia, students were like chaining themselves to the front door of Hamilton Hall and just all this stuff that was going on campus. All the students came to the administration building, and there was like tons of them. There's a lot of people there, right? A lot of thousands. Mm-hmm. And he said, I got a good relationship with the kids, so. You know, because the New York cops had come in and they were all ready to do whatever. And he said, just let me go out and talk to him. I got a good relationship. I said, oh, okay, well, you do that. So he went out there and he's starting to talk to them. And they're having like this conversation or whatever. And all of a sudden he hears the doors behind him open up. And he's like, oh, no, they're not. And then sure enough, he turned around and they just decided he was just like a decoy. While the cops all got in line, and then he just went out the door, and he thought he was done. He had to run with the students and go hide, you know. So yeah, but Columbia had that reputation for being, even after that. I mean, I was there in 75 or so. It wasn't so much like that, but in the 80s, they definitely knew their tradition of protest. So it seems like every day somebody was marching across campus protesting something, you know. Which made it fun.
Yeah, I know. Wayne State was in the area that all protesters were, mm-hmm. And a couple of the professors got kind of famous in the '60s. But by the time I got there, everybody was ready to get their degree. So
it was really interesting. Though, like when I went in '75, it was kind of still the old. Are we moving out?
Yeah, it's my closing music. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I kind of blasted it a little bit.
It was like the old New York, right? 75 was still the old New York. Mom and pop stores, you know, and smoking inside, all that kind of stuff. And in the 80s, the gentrification has started. So I went back in like 86. It was a different New York, and it was a different Columbia, because in 75, during the week, nobody went out. Everybody's in their room studying. They might be getting high, but they're studying, you know.
Right.
But there was no bar life, none of that. When I went back in 86, it had started this whole thing of party every night. Wow. So like on any given night, you could go out and hang out at the bars, and there'd be people out, and there'd be parties going on. And that was a huge shift from 75 to like 86. And then since then, it's kind of stayed like that. It's even gotten worse some places, you know, where it's just kind of like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that they go there and do their work, but also the whole party thing is way different now than it was back then. You know, if you partied, you do it like in somebody's room or whatever. Now it's like you just go out and party everywhere. You know, part of the fun of college, but also can really get in the way.
Yeah, it was good. I wish my kids could have that experience, but alas, I can't do it 8 times. So.
I'm thinking about going back.
That'd be fun.
That's why I got my retirement plan, you know.
Thanks for joining us tonight, Tim. It was good to have you. You're welcome back anytime. This is just the off night. You know, we should talk when I get back out and to the Unclub again, too. We should talk about maybe bringing this to the Unclub and getting some cameras and stuff instead of just doing this on the phone crap. Because really, this was started by Seth and myself, Wrestler and myself. Do you know Seth? anyway, we started this. The idea was the thing we missed most about during the pandemic was hanging out with the comics in the back of the room. So
Well, that would be fun because the Unclub is like 8 to 10 right now. If they do it Saturday, it'd be 10 to midnight. I don't, they're still talking about.
That'd probably be even better because we could probably get some people from the coast too if we did it that late.
Oh yeah. What would be fun is that I don't know if it's doable, but if like after the thing, that you
Could
do a
do
thing
that.
where the comics are still hanging out talking.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, we can, and you know what? The way this works is we can have a couple of bad shows working out the kinks. We can do it that way. So we don't have any advertisers.
Have to work out doing it.
We don't have any advertisers firing us. So
we have to work out with the MCL house as to what would be what room we could we do it there or what So anyway.
All right. Well, we'll be back here again next week at 8:00 on Monday night until further notice. We may be moving it. Who knows? But I'm definitely going to, once things get better here at the house, I'm definitely going to get out to the Unclub, and you'll see me live. So thanks for joining us, Tim Henning. Everybody else, join us back here 8:00 Monday nights. See you then.
Au revoir.
Au revoir. I didn't time that well. Usually I time it